Hello students, today we are going to discuss another lesson, Landscape of Soul by Nathalie Trouveroy. So this is the fourth lesson of your book Hornbill, and this lesson has two parts. One, Chinese art painting, and second one, getting outside art. The writer has actually not given any name to the first part, but we have given this name from our own end to make it easier for comprehension. So this lesson will discuss in these two parts. So first part, Chinese art of painting, the writer starts the lesson by telling us a story. He tells the story of Wu Daozi. He was a famous painter, and an emperor, Zhongzong of Tang dynasty, gave him some job to make a painting to decorate palace wall, and painter did it so well, but he kept it hidden from everyone so that only the emperor could see it. When emperor came to see the painting, he admired it by all his heart. He admired each and everything. He was all admiration for wonderful scene, forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds, and each and everything, even man on hilly paths. Everything he admired. But painter said, "See, in the cave there is something more enchanting." And soon the painter clapped his hands, and the entrance of the cave opened. Then he told, "There inside things are too splendid beyond anything words can convey." So he wanted to show the same to the emperor, and the painter entered the cave. But then a strange thing happened, that the entrance got closed behind him, and before the emperor could move or say anything or could do something, the painting got vanished from the wall. Means the painting disappeared altogether. Thereafter, no trace of the painter or the painting were left behind, and painter was not seen in the world thereafter. And this was the first story that the writer has began his lesson by telling this. The writer tells these such stories are part of Chinese classical education, and the books like Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of such stories, since they help the teachers to guide their students in right directions. He recalls one another story that a painter painted a dragon, and he refused painting the eyes with some fear that the dragon would fly if he paints the eyes of the dragon. And next the writer makes a comparison between these two Chinese stories with one of European story. He tells us next a story from Flanders. He says that in 15th century Antwerp is a place, a master blacksmith, his name was Quentin Metzis. He fell in love with a painter's daughter, but the father of the girl would not accept Quentin Metzis as his son-in-law, since he happened to be a blacksmith, and he would not accept a blacksmith as his daughter's husband. Then what Quentin Metzis did, when no one was inside, he went into painter's studio and he took a brush and paint and painted a fly on the panel. He painted it so well that it seemed next to real. And at the first moment, when the girl's father came, the fly appeared so real that he tried to sweat it, that fly. But soon realized that it's not a real fly, but it's merely a painting. And then he recognized an artist in Quentin Matsys, and that painter got agree to marry Quentin Matsys with his daughter, and also accepted Quentin Matsys as his apprentice, and later he turned out to be a famous artist. So this was another story from Europe. It was an example of illusionistic likeness, means something that looked like real but that is simply an illusion, which is close to real but not real. And writer begins his lesson with these all three stories, and next writer tells what's idea behind narrating the tales. He tells that in the first story, emperor simply appreciated the exterior, the outer beauty or outer appearance of the art, but the artist knew the real beauty of his art, since the painter thou found a way within, and thou entered through the painting and reached his final goal. So here the idea behind this is that a painter or an artist know the real essence or the real beauty of a piece of art, while the emperor simply appreciated the outer appearance. Next, the writer tells us difference in both European and Chinese art forms. The writer tells us that there is huge difference between both the art forms. While the European artist wished to take his eyes and look at the piece of art through the artist's eyes, while the Chinese art form is totally different. It lets you at liberty to choose any viewpoint and see it thoroughly. The writer makes the same thing clear through the horizontal scrolls of Chinese art. In the horizontal scrolls of Chinese arts, the viewer is at liberty to choose his own time to move forward, to move backward, or stroll in, up by his own choice. And he can actually travel in the painting out of his choice, out of his time space. Chinese painter does not want to borrow the viewer's eyes, but he wants to borrow the viewer's mind to make sure that he must know the painter's mind behind painting the art piece. And finally, the writer gives us a concept of shan shui to emphasize the same point, that the viewer must see what has not even painted, because the writer says that in Chinese landscape, Chinese piece of art, it's equally important to see the unpainted space which the viewers can see and admire. So he gives the concept of shan shui, and writer says that the meaning of what the word shan shui is mountain water, in which mountain is yang and water is yin. Mountain presents the masculine aspect, while water presents the receptive and feminine aspect. Mountain is said to be reaching vertically towards heaven, and it is stable, warm and dry, while yin is fluid, moist and cool. And the interaction of both yang and yin are the fundamental notion of Taoism. But here the writer tells us that the element that is overlooked is the third essential element. And the third essential element is void, where their interaction takes place. And this void is equally important. It is compared with yogic practice of pranayam. Pranayam has three parts: breathe in, retain, and breathe out. While breathe in and breathe out is noticed, but retaining the breath is most important, since the meditative activity occurs in this void, that is holding the breath or retaining the breath. And this is same as void in the interaction of yin and yang. So through this simple concept of Shen Shui, the Taoist view of the universe, the writer tells us that it is up to humans to view what has not even painted, and realizing the unpainted part in a piece of art is equally important. And it is up to human beings as to how deeply they see it. So this was the concept of Chinese art of painting. The second part of the lesson is an article of Brinda Suri, which was published in Hindustan Times on 28 August 2005. The writer begins this part by telling us that French painter Jean Dubuffet in 1940 gave us a concept of art brut, or outsider art, or also called raw art. Before we move ahead, it is important to tell us what this concept of art brut or outsider art, or also called raw art, is the same concept as these three names. And this concept refers to the art of the untrained visionary painters, visionary persons. It means that it is the art of those who have no right to be artists, as they have no received formal training. Means this entire concept is all about those artists who are artists but who have not received any training for being a good artist. That's why their art has been said to be raw art, or an art of outsiders, or also called art brut. So when this concept was brought about by Jean Dubuffet in 1940, then there was considered to be a decline in the arts of such artists, since they were being considered as inferior to trained artists. But almost at the same moment when this concept was bringing its effect on the artist of untrained persons, at the same moment there was being a revolution raised, and this revolution was coming out in India through Nek Chand. What did Nek Chand did? Nek Chand cleared some part of a jungle and had a vision of creating a paradise over there, and he sculpted a garden which is so called a rock garden at Chandigarh. He created these sculpted idols with rocks and recycled material, and finally this rock garden got so famous all over the world that Nek Chand became an idol of the biggest contributor of this outsider art. He got so famous that 50th edition of a UK-based Raw Vision magazine published Nek Chand's work on its cover, and even Swiss Mission for UNESCO planned to honor him through European exposition. 5 months interactive show named Reign of Nature were supposed to be held in Switzerland, Belgium, France, and Italy, the leading museums of these areas. But finally, Nature contented himself with his view and a comment that the biggest reward for him is walking through the garden and seeing people enjoying his creation. And that was the view of Nature when he considered the pleasure of people over the honors from other agencies. So this lesson ends here. This lesson has two parts, and I hope both of the parts you understood well. And for easy comprehension, for easy understanding, I wish you all to listen and watch this video twice. And these are the notes for you. You can take help of these notes. And thanks for watching the video. Like and share the video, and